All right, so we've just created our brand new project, and now I'm going to go over all the basic areas of the editor that you should be aware of, and also how to navigate and edit your level and stuff like that, just all the basics that you should be aware of. And I should also mention, if you have used Unreal Engine 4 before, a lot of this is going to be very, very familiar. A lot of the engine layout and hotkeys and stuff are almost identical, if not identical, in a lot of areas. So this is just going to be if you have no experience here whatsoever and just need a little bit of direction. So let's get started. So first off, let's just go over the big, beautiful 3D viewport here. So this is the main area that you're going to go to edit your level and play your game. So the way we get around here is by hovering over this viewport with our cursor and then left clicking, and then if we drag while left clicking, we can look around, and then by using the W, A, S, and D keys, you can move around forward, left, backwards, and right. And so by using all those, we can navigate around. And then also, if we hold Q, we'll move down, and if we hold E, we'll move up. So by doing all of this, we can very easily navigate, fly around our entire scene and get any view that we want. Now, as well as just being able to move like this, we can also adjust the speed of our movement. If we go up here into the top right corner, you'll see this little camera icon that says camera speed. So if we click on this, we can actually bring this down, and then we will move very slowly. So if you're working way down on the ground with a bunch of really small props or something, and you just need to get really way up close there and be really accurate, then you can turn this way down. Or you can turn this up really far if you're working with an open world map and you need to be able to get super far away and you need to fly around to all these different areas, then that's something that you might want to do. But I'm just going to keep this at 4 for now. That's usually a pretty good speed. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to real quickly go over is view modes. So up here in the top, you'll see all these different tabs. We've got these 3 tabs here. We've got the perspective tab, or it says perspective right now, but it's really just outlining what viewport we are in. See, if we go to top view, then it'll show us a top view of our scene, and it changes to top. We can go left, right, back. We can go to any of these things here, and that's basically that. We also have the default viewport or cinematic viewport, and we're going to be using the cinematic viewport a little later on. But for now, I'm just going to stick to default to show you the rest of the stuff we're using. So up here, we've got this tab right here that says lit, and we can switch to all these other view modes. So we can go unlit. So this takes out all of the lighting from our scene and just shows us the materials and textures on all of our objects. We can go to wireframe. If you're just trying to see, maybe if your LODs are working or something, you might switch to the wireframe mode. We've got detail lighting, which only shows the lighting, and it does not show textures or anything. So it's a little bit difficult to see that in this specific scene, since all of these objects are just one color. But that's what this one does here. Lighting only, which is just lighting. Pretty much all these are pretty self-explanatory. We've got reflections, which will just show reflections, collision, and then we also have some more advanced stuff in here that we're not really going to be getting into, but this is just for optimization stuff, so we can view the lighting complexity or shader complexity, and we can use these settings to visualize areas of our scene that might be causing a lot of lag. All right, and then next we have the show tab here, which you're probably going to want to leave exactly how it is. So basically what this is going to do is it allows you to turn on and off various kinds of objects. So for example, we can turn off fog, which isn't going to do too much in the scene since there isn't really much fog. We can turn off decals. We can turn off anti-aliasing, atmosphere. We could turn off basically all of this stuff here. And eventually you can see it's starting to look a little weird. Skeletal meshes, translucency. But if you do end up changing some of this stuff, you can always just go back to use defaults, and that's probably what you're going to want to use most of the time in when you're working in your project. And then before we move on to the next thing real quick, I just want to say that also you've got some hotkeys here to switch between lit, unlit, wireframe, and lighting only, all these. And that's by holding down Alt and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 keys. You can switch between all of these. And this can be very useful if you're just real quick trying to go into unlit or something. Just wanted to throw that out there as well. All right, so the next thing in the viewport here is going to be basic level editing. So as you can see, we can left click on any object in our scene, and then you'll see it's highlighted, and we have this little movement widget down here. So we can drag any of these arrows by just left clicking and holding, and then just dragging them around. We can drag on Y, X, Z axes, and we can also move it on multiple axes at once if we grab it on the corner here. So we can also move it on every axis if we grab the center point, and that's all that there is to movement basically. And then if while we have this selected, if we press the space bar, this will actually change the edit mode for this object. So now we've switched to rotation, and once again we can rotate in any direction. And then if we press spacebar again, this will actually change us to scale mode. So now we can scale our object or actor. That's another little tip in Unreal Engine lingo. An actor is basically any object in your scene. So this would be the stair actor. And then if we hit space again, it'll just switch back to the movement widget. So we can just cycle through all of these as much as we want. And that's just a nice, easy way to get stuff around. And also you can delete meshes, of course, with either backspace or delete. And that's about all that there is to that. You may have also noticed that when moving this stuff around, it kind of snaps every so often, rather than being able to move it more incrementally. And so to change that, we can actually go up here to these tabs up top. So this is set the position grid snap value, so we can change how much it snaps by. So we could actually go up to like 100, and now it'll snap at wider intervals. Or we can bring it down, or we can just keep it at default. And we can also enable or disable snapping entirely by clicking on the blue icon here. So now we can move it very smoothly at any point in the level. And we can do the same thing with our rotation and with our scaling. So we can disable and enable that snapping or set different snapping amounts. Other than that, we also can manually select the different edit modes here from scale, rotate, move, and select, as well as change our transform mode from world, local, or relative. So like, let's say I was to rotate this, you can see it's scaling on the local axis. And if I hit this again, you can see it changes to the world axis rather than local. All right, so next we have our world outliner up here in this top right corner. And also, real quick before I get into all of these windows here, if you are not seeing one of these windows on your screen here, what you can do is you can just go up to the window tab here on the top, and you can find whatever tab you might be missing. And like, let's say you're missing this world outliner. Let's say that's not there. You can go up here, find the world outliner, and if you just click this, it'll add it into your project. So the world outliner here is just going to give us a full list of every single object in our scene. We can search for specific objects. Like, let's say we were trying to find this left arm static mesh. We can search for that. And we can also double click on any object in the world outliner to focus on that object. So if I want to go to wall 7, I can double click on that and it'll take me to wherever it is. So once we have all of these different objects selected, we have the details panel right down below here. Once again, if you don't have your details panel, you can go up to the Windows tab and find it. And basically, this is just going to give us all kinds of details and many, many, many different parameters for this specific object. Now, different kinds of object are going to have different available parameters, but for just like a cube like this, we can set the material applied to it. And if you enabled starter content, then you'll see things like all these different materials here, like this brick material, all this stuff, basic floor, many different things available. We can simulate physics, gravity, cast shadows or not cast shadows. There's plenty of different stuff in here that you can just scroll through and play with. And that's honestly the best way to learn all of these different details for the most part, unless there's something that you really think you should understand how it works and you can't figure it out. Then you might want to look into it a bit more. But yeah, so that's what we've got here in the details panel. Up top, we've got a whole bunch of tabs. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff to go into here. First, I'll just mention we've got the play button here. So if you're working on a game, you just hit play, and then it'll start going through all of your game code and stuff. You can launch it to your game to various different platforms, TV, Mac, Android, iOS, but that's much outside the scope of this course, so I'll just let you know that that's a thing. Then we also have all of our different modes up here. So these are also mostly outside the scope of this course, since they're not about cinematics, but basically what we have here is, by default, we've got our active select editing mode, which is just where we can select stuff and edit the level, edit the details and all that. We've got our landscape editing tool here, which I actually may go into at some point in another course, but this is just going to allow us to create realistic landscapes by just painting meshes and stuff. We also have foliage editing, where we can paint in grass and stuff. We have mesh painting, fracture editing, and then also brush editing, which is where we can basically create simple meshes directly inside of Unreal. All right, so let's just go back to our active select editing mode here and go through these few tabs up at the top here. So we, of course, have our save button, which is pretty important if you ask me. Be sure to click that a lot, like basically every 3 minutes. Make sure you click and save. We have the create button, and so by clicking this, we can go through all of the many different objects that are available to add into our level. So we can add a point light over here. Boom, now we got a light. We can create shapes, we can add more cubes and stuff, and then edit them inside of our level. We also have our content folder here, or content tab, and so by clicking this, we can bring up one of our content browsers. So for example, we can just click this, and now we have all of our folder hierarchy inside our project that shows us all of the different things that we have, all of our actors, all of our materials, all this stuff that we can use inside of our game, the animations for our character, various meshes and stuff. And let's just, since this is something that does get used pretty often, you might want to put this down here. And if you notice what I just did there, I just dragged a window. And this is something that I should actually probably go over just briefly. You can edit all of your windows very easily. You can scale them up, down, left, right. You can place tabs. So if you grab the tab, you can move it to the side, move it to the top. You can move it to the left or right. You can have it on the left and put a bunch of sub tabs in, just like so. We could pack all of our tabs in here on the side or something. You can edit this stuff however you like, and you can make it as familiar as you want. If you're familiar with one specific software that is laid out in one specific way, lay it out like that, because that's just how logic works. All right, so then other than that, we have our blueprints tab here, which we are going to use a little bit later on, which is where we can open up our level blueprint. We can, create new blueprints and stuff like that. And we will be using this at a later point when it comes to activating our cinematics and stuff. So this is going to come in very, very handy. And then we also have our beloved cinematics tab right here, which is where we are going to be focusing a lot, which it only has 2 tabs here that open up. We've got add level sequence and add master sequence, and we're going to be using both of those to create some really, really awesome stuff going forward. So hopefully this will have helped you get a better understanding of the general layout of the editor. This is basically all the fundamental stuff that you really need to know about it, and hopefully you feel a bit more comfortable in the engine. So in the next video, we'll start. I'll show you real quick how to put together a level and stuff so that you can start working on some cool cinematics. And yeah, so let's do that now.